Welcome to the Brown Girls Do Network live series, where we celebrate the stories of inspiring women in their education, profession, and entrepreneurship. Today, we shine a light on Miss Pamela Johnson, with over 30 years experience as a dedicated educator and a successful entrepreneur based in Peekskill, New York. Pamela is not only a seasoned special education teacher, but also the founder of Lily of the Valley Floral Design Inc., a thriving floral shop and event planning business. Beyond her professional endeavors, she is deeply involved in ministry, serving in various roles in ministries at different churches. Civically engaged, Pamela is an active member of organizations such as the NAACP, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Inc., and the Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus. Family is at the center of her life as she shares a loving marriage to her childhood sweetheart of 32 years, Judge Reginald James Johnson, and is a proud mother of 3 beautiful daughters. In her leisure time, Pamela finds joy in gardening, cooking, food styling, photography, and blogging. Her favorite scripture, Psalms 84:11, reflects on her unwavering faith and belief in God's abundant grace and blessings. Join us in celebrating Pamela's journey of faith, family, education, entrepreneurship, and community engagement. I am Vanessa Williamson, the host of the Brown Girls Do Network live series. Please like, share, and comment with your questions on this beautiful journey we embark on together. Welcome. Welcome to the Brown Girls Do Network live series. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I see you guys coming into the room. I am Vanessa Williamson, the host of the Brown Girls Do Network live series. Today, oh my goodness, I am so excited and honored to welcome my guest, Pamela Johnson. But before she come on, of course, I always have to talk a little bit about Brown Girls Do Network, what we do and why we are here. Brown Girls Do Network is a membership of Black and Brown professional entrepreneur women. We are encouraging, motivating, basically pushing each other in business so we can grow up together. And our motto is, if we know it, you know it. This is our network. We are having such a great time and we are growing rapidly. We are trying to engage more members. So if you are interested in joining Brown Girls Do Network, please join us. So I'm going to stop right there with Brown Girls Do Network. I want to bring on my guest, Miss Pamela Johnson, and you all heard the intro. We have so much to talk about, and I have like 5,000 questions, but I know I'm not going to be able to get to them all. However, I'm going to get to as many as I possibly can. So let's welcome our guest today, Miss Pamela Johnson. Hi.
Hi, Vanessa. Good evening. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to have you here. I hope I do justice with this conversation that we are about to embark on. How you doing?
Yeah.
How did you like your intro?
I loved it. I was like, oh my God, I feel so famous. I was like, oh wow. You put it together so well. That was such a wonderful introduction. And I know you're facilitating this, but I just want to say, like we said off camera, I am so inspired by you and this leap of faith you took with Brown Girls Network for giving women a platform to be able to be seen and be heard. And like I told you behind screen, I don't mean to get biblical already, but it is so relevant, that in Philippians 4:8, it says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. That's what the Bible says. He didn't say think about church. Amen. And what the preacher said. He said there are things that are lovely. There are things that are beautiful. There are things that are true. There are things that are virtuous. And what you're doing is just that. You're doing something lovely, something true, something virtuous, something empowering, and you're pouring into other women and giving them a platform to be seen and be heard in industries and spaces and places where they would be invisible. And I thank you for this opportunity.
You're about to make me cry. Oh,
It's the truth. It's
thank
the
you
truth.
very much. Thank you very much. And Pam, I do not say I do this alone, because I do not. It would be impossible for me to do this alone. I have 35 women behind me, not behind me, walking with me, right? And we're walking on this journey together. And without them, there will be no Brown Girls Do Network, because a network is more than just one person, right? So I always say, listen, it's not just me. I thank you. I thank you for us. Thank you very much for that. Oh my goodness. We are having such a good time with Brown. Let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because people know I do 7 o'clock every Wednesday, but now we got texts coming in with Brown Girls Do Network. And, with that, I want to first, before I even get off track, I'm going to stay on script. And I want to ask you, as I ask every guest, and then we will jump right into our whole conversation. How was your day? And what have you done today to make the world a better place?
My day was wonderful. And every day I try to make the world a better place. During the day, I'm a special education teacher of 12th graders and 11th graders. I teach 12th grade English, self-contained, and what we call academic lab, which provides support to students who have IEPs. And my seniors are preparing for their prom and graduating, and we're preparing for a big event next week, which you're a part of, post-secondary activities commitment celebration that highlights my students. And I have just been encouraging them. They're getting ready for the prom, and they're so excited, and they're showing me their suits, what they're going to wear. And I'm just celebrating them, telling them to have a wonderful time. And every day outside my classroom, I love music. So every day outside my classroom, between period transitions, I play uplifting and encouraging music. And some of the kids dance in the hall, the teachers. And I just put a smile to shift and lift the atmosphere. Every day, a little something just to influence the culture.
I love it. I was at your school last year when you put together the graduation for the students, and they love you. Oh my goodness, they love you. And the amount of money that you secured, your staff secured for them to go to college, where a lot of them said they had no idea, didn't even think that was available for them, scholarship money, grant money for them to go to college, that your staff introduced them to that. And you guys, yes.
Yeah, now let me say, so let me be clear. So my students, they applied to colleges, and I let them know, college is something, yes, that can be in your vision and a possibility. It's when you apply and timing. I said, and if you do what I tell you to do, the scholarships will come in before you even apply for one. Just because you applied to the school, you will get money. And these kids applied, doubting, Miss Johnson, I'm not college material. I said, just step out. Just see. Don't you say what you can't do. Who's not going to accept you? Let them tell you. Let them show you your worth. And the first year, my student, this is the third year that I've been doing this celebration. The first year, my seniors, my 5 classes, were offered over $2.5 million in scholarships.
Wow.
Last year, they were offered over $4.5 million in scholarship offerings. This year, they have garnered over $4.7 million in scholarship offerings. And we're talking about, in total, students who have applied to college, about maybe 35, 40 kids, because college is not for everyone. Some chose trade, some chose, other trade programs, military, a gap year. But for those who applied to colleges, over 4.7 million. And 2 of my students, one young man and one young woman, he garnered over 1.4 million in scholarship offerings. She garnered over 1.3 million in scholarship offerings.
Pam, we're going to roll into this conversation. I want the audience to understand. I want you guys to understand why this is so important when we're talking about these numbers, because we're not talking about the children who are in AP classes. We're not talking about your high performing students, right?
Same.
We're talking about the kids who have the IEP, right? We're talking about the kids who may have a slight learning disability, who feel that it's not for them. We're talking about the underserved kid who never even thought, and probably first generation, okay, students, American students, who they never thought college, I'm not college material, college is not for me. So this is why these numbers are so important, because we're not talking about your student who has the parent and the mom and dad who's making over $100,000 and they're having these great opportunities. We're talking about the kid who thought, never even thought of applying, didn't even know how to apply. So this is why this is so important. Can you talk about the students that you work with?
Yes. So as a special education teacher, I work with students who have varying learning differences.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a myriad of things that they're challenged with. And oftentimes, when they go through what's called the post-secondary activities process, wherein New York State requires, and under IDA, that children ages 15 and up, they have to be given what they call transition opportunities, meaning what's going to happen after they graduate high school. Is there a trajectory for them beyond high school? And oftentimes, not always, but sometimes kids are not always encouraged to pursue post-secondary education, going to college. Sometimes they're encouraged to pursue other avenues, do trade, join the military, work in construction, maybe go to beauty school. And I'm not knocking these things.
Mm-hmm.
All these things are wonderful. But my philosophy is true exposure means just that, true exposure. Let them apply to colleges. Let them apply to trade schools. Let them apply to those other areas that they might be interested in. Do it all. Cast your net wide, cast your net far, and then see what you bring in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you see everything that is brought in, oh, wow, I applied to 7 schools. I got accepted to 5. 3 of them gave me X amount of dollars in scholarships. Oh, wow. I applied to beauty school. They offered me a full scholarship. Oh, and I have this opportunity over here. Then what happens is it builds self-esteem, because you know what it says? Oh, wow, they think I'm a big deal. And you know what? The kids feel valued. And then what they do is, I say, once you cast your net and you see what you catch, then you sit down with your parents and you know what you do? You have what's called an informed discussion.
Yes.
About real opportunities and pathways for you. And then you look deep inside your heart and you see what your heart is telling you about what you want to do. Don't think about the money. Think about what your passion is and see which pathway will take you to, one, your passion, and then also allow you a lucrative lifestyle. I said, and then you make the decision. I said, that's how it's supposed to be done.
Yes. We need more teachers like you. There are a lot of good teachers. We have actually we have educators in Brown Girls Do Network, and the energy, the motivation, the spirit of the educators that I'm in touch with, I am so motivated, because I'm going to tell you, when I was in high school, I did not have instructors like you. I didn't have teachers like Stephanie Morrison or Miss Howard that's in the network. I was not told about just apply, right? See what happened. It was okay, graduate from high school and you're it. It's time to start working, right? My parents was not educated. They wasn't college or university informed. It was, I don't have the money, so what are you going to do? Figure it out, right? So I went to college, to the university, once I became an adult and I became informed. Once you know, you can't unknow, right?
Right.
Let's talk about your education. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was doing my research on Miss Johnson and I saw this list of education, I see why we have the passion. And I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this list. Let me take my glasses off. Okay. We already know about this, but I'm going to go down the list anyway. A special education high school English teacher currently serving a second term as school board trustee for the Peekskill City School District. A paralegal studies certification, a BBA in accounting, a MS in adolescent education, a MS in educational leadership, a advanced certificate in school building leadership, an advanced certificate in school district leadership, and a professional certificate in race, equity, and leadership in schools from Harvard University Graduate Schools of Education Professional Studies Program, a New York Flower School certification, and currently in pursuit of your master's in divinity in biblical studies. How do you Okay, let's start from the beginning. What was your goal when you graduated from high school?
Actually, when I graduated from high school, my goal wasn't to pursue all of those things. It happened through the course of the journey and me growing and evolving. When the need arose, I pursued further education. My father always taught me, Pam, whatever your passion, whatever your gifting is, it's wonderful to have a passion. It's wonderful to be gifted. Whatever it is, in every area of your gifting, always go and get a formal education behind that gifting, because it gives you the structure and the framework to be credible and excellent at what you do. Because you're not only representing yourself, you're representing your family, and most importantly, you're representing God. And that has always stuck with me. And that is the philosophy that I share with my daughters as well. Mm-hmm. So, there's a saying, you can't teach what you don't know, nor can you lead where you don't go. So I lead by example. Everything that I tell my daughters, everything that I tell my students, I pull back the veil and I let them see the scars, and I let them know I've been where you're going. I've been through what you're experiencing. And you can come out, you can make it, and you can be a winner. You can be victorious. And I try to be an example of that.
Which is great, because kids these days, they will call you out if you are not leading by example. Where did you first attend graduate school? No, where did you get your undergrad?
Well, after high school, I graduated from Westbury High School, and I wanted to go to Hofstra University. I had applied to several schools, got accepted to Fordham, Alfred University, Old Westbury, Adelphi, and I wanted to go to Hofstra University. And I remember my guidance counselor told me, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I don't know if it's going to work out for you. Maybe you should go to Nassau Community College, and I'm not knocking community colleges at all. And maybe go and be a nurse's assistant or something. And I was like, well, I don't want to do that. And my father was like, you apply. And I applied, and, God worked it out. I got accepted. I'm not going to be the backstory behind that. He worked that out, and I got accepted. I went to school through the EOP program, the Higher Educational Opportunity Program. For private institutions, they have various names. HEOP or EOP is for SUNY State University of New York schools. I went through Hofstra University's NOAA, New Opportunities at Hofstra program, which is synonymous with the EOP program. Okay. So that's a program for particularly students of color who are not traditional college material, and their tuition and education is paid for, and they go through an intensive support program to be able to matriculate through freshman to senior year and graduate.
Do they still have that program?
Still have these programs. And the programs are wonderful because They provide a strong infrastructure for success, because making the leap from high school to college is a huge leap.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, students don't have the skills to navigate that new level of learning and education that is required. And they need guidance
Mm-hmm.
and support, not just in tutoring academically, but social setting. They need that support. And programs like HEOP, the EOP program, provide that for students, and it's a wonderful opportunity for those who may not be able to financially afford
Mm-hmm.
to go to college. So those programs service people who cannot afford to pay for private or public institutions and pursue a degree. Of course, there's an income requirement, but the opportunity is there.
How would a student find out about these programs?
Well, they should be able to find out through their school counselor,
Okay.
And get information.
So they have to inquire. They have to ask
they
about
need
it.
to really advocate for
Mm-hmm.
themselves. For my students, I didn't wait for them to advocate. I gave them the information.
Good.
I said, this is what we're going to be doing. Let me open your eyes and share some information with you that you may not know about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I share it with all my seniors. I share it with all of the kids I teach.
You got your bachelor's. You went through the other program. You got what was your bachelor's in?
Accounting.
In accounting. Okay. Please help me to understand, how do we transition from accounting to education?
First of all, I come from a family of educators. Mm-hmm. Everyone in my family, relatives, cousins, they're either educators, administrators, and ministers, evangelists, elders, pastors. That is my family.
That's your lineage.
Legacy,
okay.
If you will. That's what we do. We do ministry, and we're teachers. It's in the blood. It's in the blood. And so I wanted to be an accountant in hopes of going on to law school. I was an accountant. I had worked for Pepsi
mm-hmm.
for many years in the finance department as an accountant. I worked for the Westchester County Department of Finance, coming fresh out of college as a cash control clerk. Then worked with Pepsi, worked with Pepsi, working with the different business units geographically.
Mm-hmm.
So I would travel often to Atlanta and parts of Oklahoma and Texas to do what's called full service vend accounting. They were trying to centralize finance. So we would have to go to these different business units and learn the job to bring this information back and centralize from being decentralized to centralized in New York, mm-hmm. here in Somers. And we had a purchase office as well.
Okay.
And then I shifted while I was working for Pepsi. I wanted to go to law school. Interestingly enough, I applied and didn't get accepted to not one law school. And I applied to the CLEO program, which is a graduate level program like HEOP, mm-hmm. Continuing Legal Educational Opportunity Program. That program is to encourage people of color to go into the legal profession. And like the EOP program, the CLEO program will pay for your law school degree. You will go through a 6-week intensive, and you will have that same structural support, which will help you to be able to navigate and matriculate through law school and be successful. So finances no longer become a barrier, nor does the support academically become a barrier. So with these ancillary infrastructures, the potential for success is much greater.
What happened? Did you go? Go ahead.
That's when I went to Mercy and got my paralegal certification after I got my bachelor's. So I got my paralegal certification because I dreamed of working for, a big law firm. And God is so good. He's so good. I didn't get accepted into law school. He said, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this so you can see if this is what you really want. So got my paralegal certification, and the careers office saw my resume, and they were like, you really have a lot of business increment and background. Listen, we have a trust and estate paralegal position. You're a perfect fit. because of your accounting background, and you can work in trust and estates. And they were like, we want you to interview with Clifford Chance, Rogers and Wells. I had no idea who they were. At that time, they were the #1 law firm internationally, nationally and internationally.
Wow.
Harvard, Yale graduate, Columbia graduate, worked their weight in gold, was knocking down doors to work for Clifford Chance, Rogers and Wells. And I was like, OMG. I had my dream job. I was like,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I thought. I was just a paralegal for Clifford Chance. Girl, I had the little car service. They come pick me up. You know, I was caught up. You know, they come pick me up, you know, early in the morning if I need to be picked up. If I work late, I could get dinner, you know, bill the client, you know, work late, get a car service home. I could make 2 stops before I got home. The firm itself was beautiful. I mean, it was like everything you saw on, what was that? What was the biggest law show on TV? LA Law. It was like all of that. But then reality set in. I was a young mother, married. The girls were very young.
Okay.
You know, the girls were very, Ashley was what? 3, 4. The kids, they were very young. And I was working, I'd leave Mount Vernon, get on the train, and we were in Grand Central Station. That's where Clifford Chance was at the time, before the 9/11 attacks. Okay. And I get off right at Grand Central and go up to the 57th floor. So I was up at the crack of dawn and at the firm like 7:30 in the morning. And then the attorneys would give me all this work to do, you know, conforming legal documents, wills, etc. And I wasn't coming home until 11 o'clock at night. The babies were waiting for me to come home. They wouldn't go to sleep. Reggie's like, I bathed them, fed them. They won't go to sleep. They're waiting for you. You know, they're waiting for you, you know. And after a while, you know, the glitter of it all.
The glitz and glam wore off.
Everything that's glitter is not gold. And I realized that as much as I thought this was what I wanted, I realized in reality that I hated it.
And you was a paralegal there.
Yeah, and I realized that
this ain't it.
This is not speaking to my heart. This is not speaking. I thought this was what I wanted because, girl, the money was good. Girl, the overtime was killing it. But I was like, this is not exactly what I want to do. And real truth, this is what happened. 9/11 happened. And I worked in the city, and I was taking the train that day down to Midtown when the planes hit the towers. And every day after the attacks, you could see from my window Ground Zero. Wow. You could see every day. And for a whole year, I stayed down there, and it took its toll on me. And I know May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'm going to be very candid and transparent. Okay. And I suffered a nervous breakdown. I had a nervous breakdown. Ashley was maybe 6. Chelsea was 2 or 3. And Reggie had to take me to the behavioral hospital in Valhalla because I had a nervous breakdown, and I was in what's called the manic state. And so, you know, he found me in a fetal position at home, and they knew that, you know, mental illness ran in my family. And so they knew that something was wrong, and I had to be taken to the hospital. Had to be taken care of. And be admitted, admitted and stayed, you know, for a minute till I could be stabilized. And the interesting thing, though, let me show you how God works. The interesting thing is they didn't put me with the adults.
Who did they put you with?
They put me with the high school kids. Did they
not have any beds, or
they didn't have room, so they had to put me with the high school kids. So here I was in the behavioral hospital with 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. You know, and while during my time there, while I'm getting stabilized, they're trying to figure out medication and all that stuff, I'm having conversations with young people, and they're sharing their stories. why they wanted to harm themselves, why they feel depressed, why they feel hopeless. And I'm trying to give them a little word of encouragement because they're like, what are you doing here? You're an adult. I'm like, they didn't have any more bad guys. And so one thing about it, when you're in a behavioral hospital, for fear that you will harm yourself, they have to take everything from you. They made me take off my wedding ring. They made me take off my earrings. I couldn't have a comb. I couldn't have a brush. And so I asked them, I said, well, can I at least bring my Bible? And they said, you can have your Bible. And I have my Bible. And my hair was standing up on the top of my head. So the little girls, they braided my hair. They put the braids in my hair. They put my hair in a cornrow crown. And I had this little crown on the top of my head. When Reggie came to see me with the girls, he was like, oh my God, Lord, she going, oh, look at what happened to my wife.
We're going backwards. He was like, we're going backwards.
Going back. Oh no. I'm like, babe, they had to, bring my hair and have a comb and brush. So it is what it is. The little kids hooked me up. But and for me, that was rock bottom. That was ground zero for me. Because mental health runs in my family, and we've dealt with serious mental health issues, schizophrenia, heavy mental illness issues. And
were you going through, when you said that you was going through a manic state, are you diagnosed with bipolar disorder?
No, I wasn't diagnosed with bipolar, but I had manic and anxiety and depression. Okay. That's what I was diagnosed with. So, and I had a chemical imbalance. So I had to take medication. I didn't want to, because in my mind, my mother suffered from mental illness. I have siblings who have. And in my mind, I was, first of all, I was angry at God. And I thought, how could my parents be your children and servants, and you allow this to happen? And so in my mind, I thought that if I got an education and I got money, I would insulate myself from having mental illness. Yeah. That's what I thought. I thought it would protect me. So whatever happens in my life, because I'm educated and I'm able to take care of myself, that this thing wouldn't befall me. The thing that I fear the most wouldn't come upon me. That's what I thought, And
unfortunately.
And it happened. And life happened. And it was my ground zero moment, but it was my crushing moment where I had to be honest with God and be honest about where my heart was, that I'm angry with you. And I'm angry. And I don't understand why you did this and why you allowed this. This is not making sense. And so, yes, I know I have to accept you as my savior, because I don't want to go to hell. But I don't know if I'm going to let you be my Lord.
How did you get past that?
Yeah. And it was a long journey. It was a long journey. Because of the stigma around mental illness, I was ashamed and embarrassed. And I thought
we're talking about back, what year was that? 2001? 2002?
2002.
We was not having candid conversations like this about mental illness. We was maybe on the cuffs of it, but it was not a transparent moment like this.
No, you never had transparent conversations, and especially in the Black church.
Especially in the Black church.
The belief was God is a healer. The Holy Spirit will heal you, and you just keep it moving. Yes, he is a keeper. But listen, the woman with the issue of blood, before she got healed, she spent her money with all the doctors. She used what God put on earth to find an answer. And when the doctors couldn't do what she needed them to do, and she exhausted her money, then she reached out and said, let me go. If I can just, I don't got to speak to him. I don't got to see his face. I don't got to touch his hand. But if I can just touch a thread of his clothing, then I know I will be made whole. I want to be made whole too. But guess what? Sometimes the miracle and the healing is in the medication, and the therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And so
And
since that time,
mm-hmm.
yes, I take a pill every day to be right. I have a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
I have a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a life coach. And God is yet a healer. And I'm
Yes.
believing him every day for my complete healing. But if I have this thorn in my side, he said, Pam, my grace is sufficient. And when people see me, I don't look like, when I tell the kids my story, I tell them, listen, I've been where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the behavioral hospital. Yeah, I've been there. I've been there. Yeah. Miss Johnson, you was there. Yeah, baby, I was there. I was there. And you know what it does? It's an eye
They
opener
see
for them
you.
because yes,
Yes. They see you.
they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my goodness. I said, you give it. I'm not saying glorify sickness. That is not what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever the ailment is, it could be diabetes, it could be high blood pressure, it could be anything. Whatever the ailment is, you give it the respect that it deserves. You take responsibility and accountability, and you take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you will become that girl or that boy interrupted. If you don't give it the appropriate space and place, it will interrupt your life.
It will interrupt your life, and it will interrupt your life in the most inconvenient time
Devastating.
for
Yes.
you, but the most convenient time for him.
Yes.
Yes.
And going through that, after I
Mm-hmm.
came out, I was like, the whole medication thing, I was like, oh God, I don't want this. I'm like, I really don't want to be on medication. Can we work this out? And then Reggie and I got pregnant with Kennedy. And I had to come off the medication. The doctor was like, you can't have medication. You got to come
Mm-hmm.
off because you're
Mm-hmm.
pregnant. And I was like, God, you know, you funny. You funny. Really? Baby number 3? But Kennedy was my faith baby. I named her
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy Faith. And I named her Faith because she was my faith baby, because I didn't know if being off the medication, would I have a relapse, and get sick again
Mm.
and have another episode. And needless to say, I have not since that day. I'm
Mm-hmm.
at a place now where, my psychiatrist is like, you really don't have to take the medication, just keep it on the side on an as needed basis,
Mm-hmm.
but I check myself. My husband holds me accountable. I make sure I go to my therapy sessions, and as
Mm-hmm.
openly and as honestly as we're having this conversation, I allow my girls to see me in this light, because I explain to them, listen, this is genetic. Yes, we're
Mm-hmm.
believing God for healing, but you need to understand that just like high blood pressure, diabetes, and breast cancer runs in the family on your dad's side, you need to understand the potential challenges and risks that are in your body. And so you need to take care of yourself. And if you have mental health challenges, it is okay to get help.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay.
Yes.
It is
Please
okay.
be honest. Please be honest, and let's talk about it before it gets to a place where now we have to work double or triple hard to get you back to a place where you're feeling somewhat whatever your new normal
Yes.
is. Let's talk
Yes.
about it.
Yes. And that was my journey with our middle daughter. She
Mm-hmm.
had a greater challenge, behavioral. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a journey. It was a journey as parents.
Mm-hmm.
But I
It's
had
difficult.
it's difficult. And so many
Mm-hmm.
parents that I deal with now are dealing with it. And it's so hard for them. And it stretches you as a parent because it's taxing. When your child is
Yes.
demonstrating behavioral issues, it taxes you, husband and wife, the siblings. It creates a very challenging home environment.
It's
You
challenging
know
because it's a place where you've never been before. It's always the
exactly.
first time, right? And that's the challenge because you're like, I don't
How
know
do I
how
handle this?
to, right? I don't know how to handle this. I've never been here before. Please, someone help me
Help
help
me.
them. Yes.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And what makes it worse is when you're a mother, a father, and you're a parent, and then you see other mothers and fathers, and it looks like, from your perspective, looking at them, oh, they have the
They
perfect
have it
everything.
together. Mm-hmm.
They have the perfect kids. They have the perfect, and it's like you start to have a pity party, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it has taught me as a mother to really know what patience and love and endurance is. It has stretched me. I have learned things about myself that I would have never learned. It has drawn our family closer. And we've had to do the work, and we put in the work, and we're putting in the work because everything is not 100%. We're cultivating our relationships with siblings, our siblings, teaching the girls how to love each other and show grace to one another. Reggie and I are learning as parents, to be more understanding and patient, kind of how God is with us. The grace that he shows us, he's like, this is what you need to extend to your children, to those in your circle.
To get to the next day. Get to the next day. Yes. So Pam, thank you so much.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. I mean, no, it's okay. The audience, they are appreciating, they are loving your transparency. They really love it. You took us on a journey where life got interrupted with mental health when you had a nervous breakdown where you was working at in the city. After you was discharged from the hospital, you had Kennedy. When did you decide to return back to school? Because if I'm not mistaken, you have 2 masters, right? 2 master's degrees and working on.
So by this time, after we had Kennedy, we moved from Mount Vernon and we moved up here to Peekskill in 2003. Reggie's uncle, Aunt Barbara and Uncle Willie, they lived in this house, and they had built their dream home in the South, and they were retiring to move south. And so they needed someone to assume and take over this house. So they called us and said, listen, you guys are ready. Would you be interested? You can move here and you could do a lease option. And that's how we were able to secure our first home. We did a lease option to buy, and Uncle Willie and Aunt Barbara, we moved here, and this was the first home that we were ever able to purchase. So moving here, and this is Reggie's uncle, his mother's brother, and we were able to live here. And the house was everything that I had written for. There was a house in Mount Vernon that was a tutor, and I wrote the owners. I could see myself in the backyard looking out the kitchen window, seeing my girls play with the fence and the fireplace with Christmas and holiday. And God was like, I got that.
Okay.
Just not in Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
It's going to be in Peekskill.
What was the uncle? Who was the uncle whose
Uncle
house
Willie.
this was? Uncle Willie
and Aunt Barbara.
We got to love Uncle Willie and Aunt Barbara
for
keeping the house in the family.
Yes.
Because, there has been like a decade of our lineage where our family was not doing that. The houses was just let go. However, we're getting back to that now. But thank God for Uncle Willie and Aunt Barbara. Yes. So you guys moved there. Okay, go ahead.
We moved here. Kennedy's 3 months, and I'm no longer working at the firm. And I'm like, I have to do something. So my girlfriend, Madeline, we both attended Allen Memorial Church of God in Christ in Mount Vernon. And then she and her husband at the time had moved up to Cortland, and they were going to Faith Bible Church in Mohegan Lake. So when we came to Peekskill, I'm Church of God in Christ 4 generations. And so when we came, I was looking for a Kojic church, but there were no Kojic churches in the area. So, because we both came from Allen, when they said they were at Faith Bible, Reggie and I were like, okay, let's go to Faith
Bible.
So we went to Faith Bible, Pastor Zatoli in Mohegan Lake, a beautiful Pentecostal church. And we were there for about 10 years. But my dear friend Madeline, she's an educator here in Westchester. And we were having dinner. I had them over for dinner. And I was trying to figure out what I should do. And she sat right at the dinner table and she was like, Pam, why don't you sub? I was like, sub? I said, I can't be a substitute teacher. I don't have a degree in education. She said, no, you don't have to. You just have to have a bachelor's degree. You apply to be a substitute. You can sub, work on the days that you want and the days that you don't to be home with the baby. You can be home with the baby, but it give you some money in your pocket, till you decide what it is you want to do. Apply to the neighboring school districts and, just try it out. You can make your own schedule. They call you, can you sub today? Yes. If you don't want to, the next day say no, till you just, figure it out. So I was like, okay. So, I did the sub thing. The first sub class I ever did, oh my God, was a class in the Lakeland School District.
It was a what class?
Girl. It was
with
the kindergarten pre-K babies.
Oh.
With the pre-kindergartners.
Okay.
And they had me in with the babies, subbing that one day for the teacher who was out. Girl, it was about 15 to 20 of the little babies. They must have been no more than 4. And between the little snot, and then they were trying to climb on me. They were trying to sit on my lap. I'm like, oh, precious, no, we don't want to do that. No, we don't. No, honey, stand in the line. Okay, we're going to walk down the hall. And they want to sit next. They want to climb. They want to touch. I said, ooh, this is too much. I said, ooh, I don't know about this. So I was like, So then a teaching aide position came open at Lakeland High School. And I applied for it. And they called me in for an interview. And they were like, you got the job. And I'm going to tell you what they said. We don't want you to think that we hired you because you're Black and the student is Black. I was like, why would you say that?
Because now I'm thinking, you did hire me because I am Black.
Black.
And the students are Black.
Black. And so sure enough, it was a young lady. And I posted it on my Facebook. Amanda Anderson to visit me this December. I don't know if y'all saw that post on Facebook. She was my first student one-to-one. I was her one-to-one aide. And she was at Lakeland High School. And I followed her for the whole year. And Miss Amanda Anderson, oh my God, beautiful, articulate, outspoken, fiery, and she didn't play no games. And Amanda took me through, but you know what? And I worked with her and I gave it my all, worked with her academically, chased her down hallways, running from me, carrying on, chased her, went to the house to support her, and she graduated. And it was then that I discovered that, wow, this is what I want to do. And so when she graduated, I didn't have a position. And so my supervisor at the time, David Diamond, he was like, listen, I can connect you with Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES. They have an OASIS program in Lakeland at Walter Panis High School. And, if you get the job, you'll become a teaching aide there in that OASIS program. So I interviewed with Lynn Allen. She's now a very high administrator in the Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES School District. And so she hired me, and I was in the OASIS program. The OASIS program is a program for students who obviously have IEPs. They're on the reasons track, meaning intellectually they're capable, very bright, but they have the social, emotional issues. And they're coming out of 4 Winds. And they're coming out of the Valhalla Behavioral Hospital where I was. Remember when I told you I was with the little high school kid? This is them. This was them.
Okay.
And so I'm working in the OASIS program as a teacher's aide in English, in an English classroom, and I'm supporting the kids. And that's when I realized, you know what? This is what I want to do. I want to be a teacher. And so from that point, I dove right in and started to pursue my master's in adolescent education at Mercy. And that is how the journey began, how I transitioned into education.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you did. With that, you got a master's in adolescent education and a master's in educational leadership. Did you do them consecutively or one after the other?
Well, one after the other. After being with Lakeland till 2011, I was laid off. And then I went to work for the New York City Department of Education for BCC Prep, Bronx Career and College Preparatory High School. This was a school formed from my principal at the time, Keziah Roberts. She started that school. She birthed that school. And she hired me as a CSC chair for facilitator for the school. And that was my first movement into an emergent leader administrative position. And so while there, that's when I went back to pursue the master's in adolescent education and in educational leadership, together with the SBL and SDL certification through Site College of St. Rose.
Okay. I want you to speak on one more thing. Currently, you're serving a second term as a school board trustee for the Peekskill City School District.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I met Pam at church at Mount Olivet Baptist Church. And Pam called me, maybe it was 5 years ago, for your birthday party, I believe it was, to photograph her 50th birthday party. Best party ever. I was like, oh, this is so much fun. So much fun. When I met you, we met at church. I photographed your event. And then I also have to laugh about this. We was at church one time and I was texting you. And I was like, Pam, why are you not returning my texts? We're at a table, probably about 8 people. Lafayette was there. Her husband was there. And she's like, you're not texting me. And I'm like, Pam, I am. I've been texting you. Look, see? I said, Pam, do you have me blocked? She said, I don't have you blocked. Why would I have you blocked? They look at her phone. She had me blocked. We was cracking up. Because I was like, how did this even happen? However, it was so funny. However, I remember you said when you was running for the school board trustee for Peekskill, and I remember you made this statement, and I just loved it because you did it with so much confidence. You said, I'm running and I'm going to win because I deserve it. I know what I'm doing and the job is mine. It was like you owned it in the room. What did you run on? What was your go ahead. What did you run on?
My motivation for running stemmed from my daughter Chelsea. Chelsea was a student at Peekskill High School, and she needed special education services. I could clearly see. And the process at that time was not
friendly. It wasn't easy to navigate.
As streamlined, yes, and as easy to navigate and access. But because I was a special education teacher, I know the process. So even when faced with pushback, I could properly advocate for her to make sure that, she is going to be tested to receive and be evaluated for special education services. But here I was, I'm going to be honest, thinking in my mind, I am a person of influence. I am a woman of influence. My husband is a judge. I'm just being real. If I'm experiencing this, what about people who are not important? Then what are they going through?
They're suffering.
So I was like, wait a minute. My baby's going through this? I was like, no. So I became a part of, I could have cussed everybody out, but that wasn't the way to go. I might have felt good for a minute, but I still have the same problem. So then I said, you know what? Let me become a part of the, PTA organization for students with disabilities. So I joined SEPTO to see who was in the room, see who was getting the services for special education. It's been a whole year. And I was like, okay, you know what? Spoke to, some board trustees, wasn't really happy with the answers that I got. And I said, you know what? I said, Pam, you need to run. You can run. Give it a shot and see. So I ran on 2 things. You can check tape. 2 things. Special education, better access, better quality special education, especially for those who have no voice and are not able to effectively advocate for themselves or their children. And then 2, I ran on the need for diversity, equity, and inclusion, that there needs to be greater representation of the community, and the students who are in our school districts, Black, brown, and white. The staff needs to be reflected. as Black, brown, and white. And that wasn't necessarily happening. And so I ran on those two platforms. I got out and I hit the pavement. I hit the pavement. I hit every nook and cranny after work of Peekskill, the downtown, the business district, Maple Avenue, Chapel Hill, Dunbar, Bowman, Forest View, River Bend, you senior citizens, you name it, I was hitting it, shaking hands, letting them know what my agenda and platform was. And I said, Lord, breathe on my efforts. If this is for me, breathe on it. And the people voted, and I was the highest vote getter. And I had I don't know how many votes, and between me and the second person who voted, there was 150 vote gap. That's how much
Yes.
I exceeded, because I did the work. I was in the trenches. I was in the trenches, and I was determined. I shook hands, let them know what my platform was, did the little circles, meet and greets, because I meant it. And and I did it, not to, I'm passionate about education. I wanted to make a difference. And make an impact in the school system for the betterment of students and families. You know what I'm saying? And to use the expertise that I have to be able to effectuate change. And I know I'm only one vote on the board. However, like I said in a recent article, your greatest voice is when you can build consensus and have other board trustees, the other members of the board, come into agreement with what your vision is for the district, and they be on board. And once you build consensus and get a yes, to make it happen and have the superintendent carry out that mission and vision. Board trustees set the vision for the school districts, and we set the trajectory. And then the superintendent, who is the daily operations officer, okay, he makes sure that everyone from the top down brings and puts into action the vision that we set before him.
Okay. You're in your second term. Did you get accomplished?
Yes, I did.
What you aimed for?
Yes.
Because you ran twice, and this year you said you did not rerun because your mission is accomplished.
Yes, I wasn't seeking re-election because what I set out to do was accomplished. And true change, it takes 5 years. 5 years, because everybody has different perspectives. They represent different constituents, and they're all valid and they're all important. But the beauty of it is we can all have seats at the table. That's what equity and inclusion is. Equity is doing what is equitable for each group. Your white constituents, they may have certain needs. Your Hispanic constituents, they have needs that are different from your Black students who have different needs. But we all, as a whole, can address each of those segments of the community and meet those needs. It's not one size fits all, but you meet the needs of everyone. And as you meet the needs of each individual group, you're strengthening and building the student population, the school community, and you're building capacity at every level. And so it's a win for everyone. It's not like, oh, the Blacks, we ain't getting this, and the whites, they getting that. It's not a color thing. Often we use that as a divide, and it's such a hindrance. And we're so much better together if we could just get rid of the racial barriers. You know what I'm saying? But it's so hard to do because we're so, it's so embedded in our psyche. And I'm guilty of it too, our implicit bias. That's what we call it, implicit bias. And the only way to tear down those walls is through communication and working together, and it's not about perfection, but it's about maturity and development and evolution and growth. And the needs change every time. You got to go with the flow. And as you move with the flow, you're faced with different circumstances, different situations. And you got to be able to pivot and shift. Like in the pandemic, we had to pivot and shift. You got to be able to do that, or you'll be left behind.
Oh, my goodness. Woo. Thank you so much. Look, On this platform, we like for our audience to get to know the woman behind the brand, right? The woman behind the business. You all have just met the woman. We ain't even talked about the business. We haven't even gotten to the business yet. What I am going to do before we even transition to the business, we have had comments coming up, Pam, on Instagram. Stephanie Morrison is like, we have to meet. She said, we have to meet. What did Janelle say? Love plus coach plus therapist plus psychiatrist equals blessed. They are loving the transparency and loving you. What I want to do is, before we transition into the business, I want you all to have just a peek into what I experienced when I did the photographs for you at this graduation. What would we call it? Would we say this was a graduation?
Right. It's called, I called it the post-secondary activity commitment celebration for my 5 classes of students that I teach. This is something that my husband and I created for them out of the result of the pandemic. So many students coming out of the pandemic had lost parents, had lost loved ones. They had been just so many setbacks, and they were just emotionally fragile, just depressed, anxiety, all of that. And so I tried to find out a way, how could I shift the classroom? Because they're not trying to read, Romeo and Juliet. They're not trying to read, any of the other English books. They're not trying to hear that because they're dealing with life. And so I went to my supervisor, Maureen, at Special Education Department. I said, Maureen, listen, I need to talk to you. My kids are not interested. They're not interested in me reading the book. Now I can include it, but that's not drawing them. I'm losing them. I need to do something to strengthen them, to give them hope. And so in my mind, I'm thinking I need to walk them through the college process to let them know that there's a future ahead of them. And they need the support anyway. Our special education students, they need it. So I need your permission and your blessing to be able to do that. And she said, you have it. I said, I can do what I want. She's like, Pam, go ahead.
Do what you want.
Do what you want.
And you celebrated them. So I want you all to, this is just a 4-minute clip of this part of the celebration. And we'll be right back and we'll get on the entrepreneurial side, because the name of this is Education and Entrepreneurship. This or that, or can we have it both? Here we go.
And the title is Clutch Your Pearls. In 2021, we as Black women are making history. Kamala Harris has become the first Black Asian woman to become Vice President of these United States of America. We have broken the glass ceiling, and women all across America are adorning their pearls, which are a representation of their strength and resilience. So I asked myself, what is the significance of a pearl? A natural pearl forms when an irritant works its way into a particular species of oyster, mussel, or clam. As a defense mechanism, the mollusk or clam secretes a fluid to coat the irritant or that piece of sand. Layer upon layer of this coating is deposited onto the irritant until a lustrous pearl is formed. Did you know it takes at least 3 years to produce a thick layer of nacre in a cultured pearl? Although classified as a gemstone, pearls are extremely unique, largely due to the fact that they are the only gem material formed and found within a living creature. Unlike diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and more, pearls require no cutting or polishing before use and are simply stunning the way they are naturally formed. Pearls are rare. Only 1 in several million shellfish yield a pearl. In the Bible, the pearl is a representation of our gifts, our talents, and our abilities. Just like it takes time to cultivate a lustrous pearl, so too does it take time for us to cultivate the gifts, the talents, and abilities that God has deposited within each of us as individuals. Like the irritant, I am sure we can think of circumstances, experiences, both positive and negative, that we have used to build and develop our talents and make us more resilient. In this season, when the gift of time or tomorrow is not promised to us, we need to think about where we cast our pearls. To what persons, places, or things do you give your pearls? David says in Psalms, "For you created me in my inmost part. You knit me together in my mother's womb, and I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." If you know who you are and whose you are, if you know God took care in creating you, you should take care in how, and we should take care in how we treat and handle each other as sisters. I encourage you, make sure you are spending time with people who value and appreciate you for the gift that you are. Each of us are created by God for a unique purpose. He deposited within each of us talents, gifts, and abilities designed for that unique God-given purpose. So in 2023, inquire about your pearls. Do not give your pearls away to just anyone or anything. Be discriminating. Think before you release them. And when you do release them to people, places, and things that will handle them with care. Remember, clutch your pearls, because like pearls, you too are priceless.
You remember that?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes.
I was so excited that I was actually videoing when you did this speech to them. I came home, I couldn't even explain to Lafayette the feelings I was feeling after I left that event, because the way you celebrated those young people, I was like, they need this. I think every group in every high school with these children, they need to feel celebrated individually, not as a collective. They need to be, just like they was in those classes individually, they need to be celebrated individually. Pam, that was so beautiful. So what she did, she gifted, or how many young ladies was that?
It was a total of about, on average, about 50, 60 students, about usually it's not all the girls came, but about 20 girls.
Mm-hmm.
I give Reggie and I, we finance the whole thing: photographer, pearls, food, linen, all of it.
Right.
The pearl sets, and we buy the ties, and we adorn them with pearls for the ladies and ties for the men. We buy the food. We do everything.
She gifted, yes, she gifted all of the young ladies a set of pearls, and she had the administrators, the students, the teachers give them the pearls. That's what you were saying. With the young men, she gave them all ties, and she had all different administrators. And the one thing that I really love with the men, right? You gave them all ties, and the administrators helped them put on the ties and tied it. You did it all the way from I think the top administrator all the way down to the janitor.
Yes.
And I was like,
from
beautiful.
From people who clean the bathrooms.
Yes.
To the superintendent of schools.
Absolutely.
Because if our schools aren't clean, we don't have an environment that's healthy to teach children. If you don't eat, the cafeteria lady's not there.
Yes.
You don't eat.
There. Mm-hmm.
If security keeps us safe, they need to be honored. The TAs are there, they need to be honored. The teachers are there, they need to be a part.
Yes.
All of them
everyone covered.
The kids. Yes. Everyone.
I love that.
Yes.
We're going to transition now to what we have learned, what I've learned, and what I know, right, is that women of color, and I'm focusing on women of color, We are so multi-layered and so multi-dimensional. We do not just come as the face that you see. It's so many other people and situations and events that go on behind us. What we're about to do now is transition to another dimension of you. Your business, Lily of the Valley Floral Design. Please tell us about Lily of the Valley Floral Design and how did that even come about and happen?
Lily of the Valley Floral Design is a full-service floral shop and event planning shop located at 810 South Street in Peekskill, New York. Um, Lily of the Valley was birthed, the idea, when I lived in Mount Vernon. I had a love. My first encounter with the dirt was a little girl in Long Island, living in Lakeview. You know, we lived in a nice community, but we had the worst house on the block. We did. And everyone else had beautiful homes and flowers. We didn't know we were poor, but you know, all I know is I wanted to have flowers like they did. So I took the sunflower seeds that you buy from the store. Yes, I did. I took the sunflower seeds and I put them in the dirt under the tree and I prayed and asked God to let them grow. They never grew. I didn't know you had to water them. I didn't know. I was just stepping out on faith. But God honored. He honored that. He said, I see you, little girl, and dreams can come true. Fast forward, we're living in Mount Vernon in Reggie's mom's townhouse. She retired and moved south. And we were living in her townhouse. And she had a garden in the complex we lived in. And she commissioned me. She said, Pam, I want you to take care of my garden. And she gave me a little Japanese maple. And she told me to plant it and take care of it with the rest of what she had planted. And so I did. It was the least I could do, you know, bless us to, you know,
have a townhouse. Yes.
Okay, there you go. I was like, what else you need me to do? And so I would water it every day, got the neighbors inspired. And it was there that I discovered that I had a love for horticulture, for gardening. And so I just, you know, dove in, you know, took a deep dive and really enjoyed myself. And then I said, you know what? I should take a class or two at New York Botanical Gardens, you know, to learn floral design, how to make arrangements. And then in church, people would ask, you know, would you help? Now, Benny is a caterer at Allen Memorial Church of God in Christ in Mount Vernon. And he has a catering business. So every now and again, there would be events at the church and I would do the little flowers, the flowers on the table. And people would ask, oh, do you do weddings? I was like, well, yeah, I guess I could, you know. And so they asked me, okay, can you do my wedding? I was like, well, okay. So I started doing events. And then I was like, okay, I need a name for my business. You know, really it was a hobby, me and my business. And I named it Lily, you know, biblical. Lily of the Valley Floral Design. And I got little cards and I was like, I got a business. And I would work outside of my home. I would do little events here and there. Moved up to Peekskill, continued, you know, doing events. And I was doing a church event with Enlightened Ministries. Minister Dr. Kendall McFarland, her ministry, which she founded. We were doing her opening. And Vivian McKenzie, who's the owner of Kathleen's Tea, now Mayor Vivian McKenzie, she was catering and she was bringing food in and she saw everything that I had done as far as the aesthetics, the linen, the flowers. And she said, you did this? I said, yes. And she was like, I would like for you to do my flowers for my shop, for my tables every week at Kathleen's. Wow. She was my first corporate client. And I said, okay. And so I started making just little buds in little bud bonds, little arrangement, faithful every Saturday. I take pictures, make it beautiful. I sweep the front of the restaurant, you know, and, you know, every day. And it was there that Nancy Cito, who was the executive assistant to one of the vice presidents at New York Presbyterian Hospital, Ophelia Byers, she was over the head of nursing. A sister, and Nancy Cito would frequent Kathleen's tea room. And she came over and had a conversation, said, I love your work. I would love for you to be one of our vendors for the New York Presbyterian Hospital. I said, oh, really? She was like, yes, all I need from you is your DBA and your EIN. I was like, absolutely, I'll get that to you.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, I didn't have a DBA or EIN, didn't know what she was talking about. I ran home. I was like, babe.
First lesson.
First lesson.
First lesson.
I was like, what's a DBA and the EIN? He said, oh, that's doing business as, and your employer identification number. He was like, yes, you have cards, Pam, and you have stickers, but you're a hobby. You are not a business until you get a DBA and an EIN. I said, what am I doing? He's like, I got you. I'll take care of it. So he took me to get my DBA. He got my EIN and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave her the information. And then Nancy said to me,
Pause for a second. DBA, just in case someone is not informed, it means doing business as. It's a different entity. It takes you out of the hobbyist to a more legal state of doing business. However, it is a step under your LLC.
LLC.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Go
ahead. The DBA, yeah. So the DBA, what the DBA will do is it will protect you and give you protection in Westchester County. So it's $35. You go right to the county clerk's office in White Plains, Martine Avenue. And for $35, whatever the name of your business is, you fill out the form, put your name, and they'll do a check of Lily of the Valley Floral Design and see if anyone has the name Lily of the Valley Floral Design in Westchester County. And if they don't, they stamp you. And they say it's your name. Nobody in Westchester County can use it. And then you get your EIN, your tax identification number for your business, Lily of the Valley Floral Design. I used my home address because I didn't have a brick and mortar yet.
It's a DBA.
And took $50 and went to M&T Bank and opened up my business account.
That's right.
And with those three things, it shifted me from a hobby to a legitimate business, and it opened me up to be able to qualify for grants. But let me go back. She told me, Nancy, I needed to have a website. And it was you, Vanessa. Remember, I asked you about the website, and you told me to go to GoDaddy.
Okay.
And get my website. Yes. And I went to GoDaddy, and I got a template. Mm-hmm. And girl, I put all my content, my pictures, my wording. It took me weeks to build that website. But it was at your directive. You told me to go to GoDaddy, and I did. And I set up my commerce and everything. And I was an online business working out of, you see this living room? Well, this is revamped now. But this was my cooler. Mm-hmm. The living room was my cooler. And my kitchen was where I made all my arrangements. And I had two tools. I had shears and I had a cutter. 2 instruments. That's all I had. When the wholesalers wouldn't pick me up and let me get flowers from them, my wholesalers were Stop and Shop, ShopRite, Acme, wherever I could find flowers. They were my wholesalers. So when I got orders, I'd buying up the flowers from ShopRite, from Stop and Shop, from Acme, and the like.
Okay.
Hustling, if you will.
Hustling, making it happen.
Making it happen, stepping out on faith.
Stepping out on faith.
Yep.
What you didn't do is stop. You said, nope, this is what I need. This is what I'm going to do. I got it. I do want you, because you said this one word, grant. You said that's all I needed. Talk a little bit more about that, because I know my audience with the ladies, that is something that everyone always wants to know, right? Know about is a grant, because a grant, you don't have to pay that back. However, you do have to have a vision, a mission of what you're doing with the money. Can you talk about what and how did that happen, and where can you kind of direct us to go for a grant?
Yeah. So after that, after I got my DBA and EIN and opened up my account with M&T, still at Kathleen's Tea Room, during the pandemic, there was this push to help revitalize businesses, to get business back going, the restaurants and the different small businesses. So there were a series of grants that the government was giving out, both at the national and the local level. I knew about it, but I didn't think it would apply to me. So Vivian said to me, now Mayor McKenzie, she said, you should apply for a grant. You should consider applying for a grant. I said, I can't get a grant. I don't get grants. She was like, Pam, just try. I was like, I'm not going to get. She was like, Pam.
Just second lesson. Don't tell yourself no. Let them tell you no.
Yep. Just try. You have nothing to lose. I was like, all right, whatever. So begrudgingly got the paperwork and started filling it out. I had to create a whole portfolio. I had to come up with a business plan and why I wanted the money. It was a local grant given through New York State, micro enterprise grant. And it was for anyone starting a business. If you've been in business less than a year, like officially, and they were awarding up to $35,000. And they had a pool of X amount of money, maybe $200,000. So they were encouraging people to apply. So that's the grant I was applying for. So I had to do a whole portfolio. I had to do a DBA, how my business came to be. What was I going to use the $35,000 for? And I had to hire an employee on that $35,000. Yeah. So,
okay.
So I used my grads. I was like, Pam, pretend like you're in grad school and you're doing a portfolio. And so my accounting and grad school skills kicked in, and I did a 40+ page portfolio to present to the planning department for the city of Peekskill.
You put it all together yourself?
I put it all together.
40 pages.
40 pages. It turned out, 40. Everything from A to Z that they asked for, because they have requirements. They gave indicators, what they needed to see. We need this, we need this, we need to see a business plan, we need to see forecasting, we need to see how you're going to use the money, we need to see what you're going to purchase, what is your vision, who are you looking to hire, are they going to be full-time, are they going to be part-time, what is the job description. I had to answer all the questions. And I presented, obviously, a clean portfolio, not handwritten, typed, professional, had it laminated, labeled, all of it, because it's me on paper. And so I had to demonstrate to the city that I was the real deal, that I meant business and I was serious. No spelling errors, none of that. I had to let them know.
How long did it take you to do the 40 pages?
The portfolio,
because I'm sure it was under a time you had to submit this by a certain time.
And working, it took me about 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get everything together to meet the deadline. Then once I submitted the portfolio, then you have to go through this screening process. And when I was finally notified that I was chosen as one of the, at that time, 3 other recipients, then I was required to go through entrepreneurship training. So I had to take a class at Rockland Community College with one of the small business organizations that's housed in SUNY Rockland. And so I had an advisor, and I had to go through the whole training program with him, including software modules. And I had to do the assignments in the modules and develop a higher grade portfolio that was New York State standard approved.
Did they pay for that, or you had to pay for that?
No, it was part as a winner or chosen,
okay,
whatever you want to call it, chosen. It was required that I go through this program in order to be eligible to receive the $35,000, because New York State wanted to see that as a new business, you go through the training and you had to have evidence of it. You had to be approved. They had to audit you. So it was a tedious process, but it was an education, and it was a good education, because far too often we think because we have a skill, that we have a hobby, that we have a gift, that means we know how to run a business. And that's not the case. As educated as I think I am, I knew nothing about running a business. And so I had to learn. It was an education for me. I had to learn, sit under someone, be tutored, be mentored, and be taught how you become a legitimate entrepreneur.
I love that. That class, I would be more than willing to take that class. More than willing, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you can give us any nugget in reference to what you learned, if you can recall about that class, what is the one gift you can gift us with?
It's important, if you're a business, you need to have an accountant.
Okay.
You need to have an accountant because when you become a business, you have to pay quarterly sales taxes. And so many times that I've heard from seasoned entrepreneurs, they said, I didn't know that. All the money I made, I never knew I had to pay quarterly sales tax. And some of them were in debt to the tune of $70,000 that they had to pay to New York State. New York State is not going to say, oh, you didn't know. I'm sorry. You can start over. No, you didn't know. You know now. Get on the payment plan and you're going to pay us this every month till you pay that $70,000. And so that was the first nugget that I received. And that came from Vivian. She was like, get an accountant. You have quarterly sales tax to pay immediately.
Okay.
And
I'm
I
happy you said that. Yes.
And they my accountant handles all of that. Pam, quarterly sales taxes due. Paperwork is being filled out. I need this amount of money. I need to take care of this. I need access to what your sales look like for the months of January, February, and March. I need to see everything itemized. I need to see how you categorize expenses and income. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and when you have an accountant, so if anyone is on here from Brown Girls Do Network, I do have an accountant. She is wonderful. Her name is Barbara. I will be dropping her name and number in the WhatsApp because when we got connected with Barbara, the accountant, it was like papers flying everywhere. Like, because you got to get all of this stuff, you got to catch up. Now you got to catch up, and catching up is painful. So it's best just start from the beginning. Thank you very much for that. Let's continue this journey. Lily of the Valley. Now you got the grant. Hold on. Okay, so when did they actually give you the money?
When?
Yeah.
So after I went through the class, I had to demonstrate that I successfully completed the course. They had to see evidence that I had done all the modules. And then the modules, when you printed up the final version, it created for you a sort of portfolio that demonstrated that with fidelity that you did what was required of you. And then my mentor or counselor, if you will, had to sign off on it. And then that person in turn, who worked in partnership with the city of Peekskill, had to turn this document in to the point person in planning. And then she had to vet it and sign off on it. And when she signed off on it, then the head of planning had to sign off on it. And then once they signed off on it, then the city had to approve it.
Oh my goodness.
And then the state, after the state then had to receive evidence of it.
Of legitimacy.
Yep. Yes.
What is it? Oh boy, I just lost it. Anyway, it was worth the work. You had to do the work and it was worth it. Definitely. Yes. Mentorship. What is the importance of mentorship in business?
Yes. Mentorship is so important. And Vivian was my mentor.
Oh, you had a good mentor.
She was my mentor. She was my mentor. And she would check on the shop. I remember I was getting everything ready. It was really coming to fruition. We opened up November 13th, 2021. And so that whole summer I spent, buying equipment, setting up, having different members from the community. And I need to say this. I need to say this. because I preach diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in my business, I believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And not that it's about highlighting one's ethnic background or race, but there's something to be said about partnership and working together and have something called destiny helpers to help you get to where you want to be. When you have people who lift you up, who help you. I have Hispanic friends who I would call them William, and he would come and he and his team would put the refrigerators, the Floral coolers together, and I would pay him. When I needed to have my shelving put together, I called someone else and they helped me with that. And when I needed forecasting, I called, Mary Foster, and not highlighting race, but who's white, to help me. When I needed help, with getting further support at the hospital, Nancy Cito, who's Hispanic, helped me. When I needed to become an MWBE, Keisha Palmer Cousins, who's Black, helped me. Race wasn't the factor. It was about who had the tools, the wherewithal, and know-how to help you make your dream, one, possible, and two, easier to achieve.
How would you say we would go about that, right? Because I know you, I know the names. I know quite a few of the names that you was just saying. Vivian Green, for those of you who don't know, the
Vivian
owner,
McKenzie.
Vivian McKenzie, was the owner of
Kathleen's
Tea. That it sadly it burned down, right? Or did it? Wait, what happened to it?
No, it collapsed, but
it collapsed.
They're rebuilding.
They're rebuilding it. Oh, nice! And now she's the mayor of Peekskill. When we talk about mentorship, when we talk about access, right, to information, I totally believe in, and you said it a couple times, don't tell yourself no, right? Let them tell you no. When I called you and said, hey, Pam, I don't even know if I even called you. I think I texted you and said, hey, can you come on my podcast? And you was like, yes. Honestly, I was like, oh my gosh, she said yes. And she said yes quickly. I do believe in accessing the people around you. I don't believe in telling yourself no. I do believe in asking questions, be informed, get the information, because everything that you just said, you did not leave out anyone how they assisted or helped you and gave you the information, because for one, they knew you was going to be open and accepting to it, right? And they knew you was going to take the information and use it and grow with it. Closed mouths don't get fed. So if you're walking around and you're saying, wow, nobody is supporting my business, like, because we on social media, you'll see my family and my friends don't support me. Okay. The world is not made up of your family and friends. You have to use your network, and your network may be the person that you see at the store every day, but you don't know because you don't ask them. So when you're talking about mentorship, you're talking about, access, grants, all of these things that make up a business. What was your biggest struggle in coming in business?
My biggest financing, because outside of the grant, right, I needed to be able to perform day-to-day operations, right? Because realistically, $35,000 is not enough to start a business and be able to employ someone, especially when you're starting from the ground up. You really don't have a customer base yet. You're a new kid on the block. There are florists all over the place. How do you position yourself as a brand to bring something different to the table? What will separate me from everyone else that will cause potential customers to say, I would rather do business with Lily Valley Floral Design as opposed to this florist here? What was it going to be about me, my business, that would set me apart? But financing was huge. Financing was huge. And credit is so important. Credit is so important. I remember when I got my DBA EIN, opened up my bank account, I went with the small bank. Go with the small community bank, especially if you're someone who doesn't have the greatest credit. And when I started out, I didn't. I remember I went to M&T Bank in Peekskill, and So I was like, I'm in business. Let me apply for, a business credit card. And don't laugh. So I applied, and don't you know how we church folks do? So I was sitting there and I filled it out. This is me, quiet within myself. All right, Holy Spirit, God, work a miracle. Make it happen, Jesus. Let them say yes, Father God. Open the doors right now, Jesus. And let them say yes to the $20,000 credit card in Jesus' name. It is so. And I decree and I declare. And you know what she said? Nope.
Not today.
She was like, no. I was like, She was like, Pam, you have some work to do. I was like, excuse me? Yes, you have some work to do. Your score is this, and there are some things that you need to clean up. I was like, yes, there's some things that you need to clean up to position yourself to be a more viable candidate to receive and be able to do business with us, and for us to be able to issue you a business credit card. So when you clean these issues up and you do the work, you come back to me and we'll revisit this and we'll resubmit and we'll see what happens. So you know what I had to do? I had to take an honest look at my credit report, all three of them, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, okay, and see the reality and the truth of where I was, what they saw about me. And you know what? It was raggedy. It was raggedy. And I had to come to reality that, Pam, yeah, it is raggedy, but you got to do the work. You have to demonstrate some discipline. You got to be more frugal. And now you have to take money that you might want to spend on something that you want. And if you really want this business, you clean this up. And so you know what? I gave myself a timeline. I tackled my low-hanging fruit first. And I looked at all my credit cards, or wherever I messed up on, called each of them. What do I need to do to settle this and remove this from my credit report? And I did what they told me to do. We need a money order. We need this. We need that. And you know what? One by one, I did what I had to do. And it didn't happen overnight. It took me almost 2 to 3 months. But guess what? 2 to 3 months later, I went back again to M&T. And I let them know I did what you said. I did my homework. I cleaned up my reports. My credit score has gone up. And this is where I am. I've saved X amount of dollars. I've opened up an account here. And this is what I have as collateral. And I would like to reapply for a business credit card.
Okay. 2 things. I'm glad that they told you what to do to clean up, because not sometimes, a lot of times we'll go into the bank and we'll be declined or denied, and it's okay, bye, see you later, right? And they're not going to tell us exactly what to do and invite us back. So I'm glad that they did that. And that was M&T Bank. The next thing.
Yes, and let me say, to get that personal touch, never go with the big banks. Always go with the smaller community banks.
Yes.
Because they get to know you as a person. And just to wrap that up real quick. So we went back. She submitted the application again. And you know what? I was denied again. But she said, because you cleaned it up, they do allow us to advocate for you and send it to underwriting. And we can present a compelling story and tell them why they should take a chance with you. And so we wrote that compelling story and submitted it to underwriting, and they approved me for the business $20,000 business credit card.
Wow.
To do
how
business.
do you get approved for a business credit card?
Remember, your business is separate from your personal. But if you're going to start a new business, your personal is what speaks to your lending credibility. If you don't have any businesses to work with, the only thing they have to go on is your personal financial credit history.
So did they use your EIN number for the business, or did they use your social security number, your personal and put your business name on the personal? I mean, your business name on the, or did they, what did they use? Like, what did you need to give them to get a business credit card?
Right. They understood that the purpose was for my business, but they had to go based on my personal financial history and background and credit history, because I had no business history. So they pulled my personal credit information, Pamela Johnson. They pulled me and they looked at me and they told me what I needed to do to be credible. And so I did the work. And then when we went back, even though they said no, because I did the work and now I demonstrated that I was a serious applicant, they were able to go to underwriting and make that request to give me consideration. And I was successful.
Okay. At this time, had you opened the doors to the floral shop?
Yeah, and the doors were open. Yeah.
Okay. How is it going? Because, ladies and gentlemen, she has a brick and mortar floral shop in Peekskill.
Rental space.
How is business going?
I'm going to be honest with you. Starting out as an entrepreneur in an industry, the floral industry, first of all, there aren't many women of color in the industry.
Really?
So I don't know legitimate businesses. Let's be clear. Legitimate businesses, LLC, etc. There aren't that many. I think I'm the only florist in Westchester County of African Americans.
Okay.
Of color. Legitimate. Let's be clear. Legitimate business. There might be others out there. I don't know, but from my understanding, when I speak to other wholesalers, I ask them, are there any other women of color who are florists, around who do business with you? And they're like, no, you're the only one we know of. And I've dealt with several, both in Westchester County and in Connecticut, who service the surrounding region. And so they know who the game players are. They know who's in the industry, who they do business with. And they're like, you're the only one that we know of. If there are others we don't know, maybe they're out there, we just don't know.
You just told us, because when you first started out, your wholesalers was the grocery store. You have wholesalers now.
Yes, yes. And that was a process. I had to apply
to the wholesalers.
To a wholesaler.
How does that work? Because I'm sure you have to find them. You have to seek them out. Once you find them, they want to see your credibility as well. And I'm sure the inventory and the frequency, you will be ordering from them.
Yeah.
How do you provide something like that when you are just opening your doors and they've never even extended you access to order from them in the past?
Right. You have to seek them out and you have to submit applications. And then one of the other things I did just starting out, which you have to be careful of, is I went through, the 1-8 floral services, 1-800-Flowers, Teleflora, Bloom Nation. So these are all the different floral outlets, if you will, that work with florists all over the country. And so that's how a lot of florists keep bread and butter coming in. So it's like you work with them and they, get you to sign contracts, but it's almost like you're working for them, because once you sign up with them, some of them want to have control of your website. We'll do your website. I'm like, no, and so you select different geographical regions that you're going to cover. You have to pay a fee. They get a percentage of your sales. So it's almost like you're sitting at your shop waiting on
an order to come through from them.
Waiting on orders for them to feed you, for you to say yes or no, and then to service and deliver. So you're hustling for them. And so that's how it started out. And, Teleflora was carrying us while we were getting the name Lily of the Valley Floral Design out there, trying to build a customer base. And I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years. Then, in all transparency and honesty, the grant money ran out. The grant money ran out. And now it was, how do I be able to pay my one employee that I have? How do I do that? And so I put got to put my big girl panties on. And as Vivian told me, if you got to come out your own pocket, you pay your
pay
employees.
her. Mm-hmm.
You got to pay. And so I would take my paycheck, take money out my paycheck. And if sales weren't enough that week, I had to put the money in it to be able to pay my employees, pay my rent, and do what I need to do. And then when the well wasn't as plentiful, because the reality is it happens. The well wasn't as plentiful. I was like, oh my God, what is happening to my dream? Is it dying? You know, is it dying because the money's not coming in? And I was like, what am I doing? And I thought I was dying, but no, it was necessary to again make a pivot and shift. I could no longer sustain one full-time employee while being a full-time teacher. And right now I can't let go of my teaching job. I've been in the profession for many years. You want a pension, you got to do what you need to do to get the years to get the pension.
Yes.
So I have to stay put. So I'm like, so what do I do? How do I support my passion? How do I support my business? And
what did you do?
So the one employee that I had, that was it. I had to let them go, and my one team member, Cecile, ride or die, she was the office manager. She was faithful to me. She said, don't worry about paying me. I'm here to see you make it. She shout out to Cecile Quarles and Mark Quarles because they supported Lily of the Valley, and Cecile worked with me for 2.5 years and never asked a dime of me. She said, sis, we're pouring into you and your family because we want to see you make it. And she worked for me, represented Lily of the Valley so well.
Wow.
So I take my hat off to Cecile because she was my face when I was at school. And she surveyed, she checked what orders we were going to take and what we weren't going to take, and did troubleshooting if, the money wasn't right with Teleflora. And she held it down when I was at work. And I was like, oh my God, and then there came a time when she said, Pam, I'm going to have to transition. And my heart was broken, but I understood, I have to, make a shift. And I said, I understood. And at this time, the building was going under renovation, so we had to close anyway. But my online presence and my website, thank God, strategically built it in such a way that I had created a brand.
Yes.
And created a brand. So when customers engage with me, because I put so much content out there about who Lily of the Valley was, and it was authentic, they were like, we just want to engage with you because we've learned so much about you and your story. We're fascinated. So I want to give you an opportunity. And that's how they came through the door. And the technology, meet via Zoom. And so most of my garnering was through weddings, sip and petals, which is the bigger earning money. Walk-ins are wonderful, but they don't do enough to sustain the business if you're not getting a lot of foot traffic. And my brand went before me, and I'm so grateful because God breathed on it. I use my shop as a platform to lift him up. If you look at my site, it's about Lily of the Valley, but I'm talking about who the real Lily of the Valley is.
No, actually, if you look at your site, you reference God in a lot of your products.
That's what I mean. Yes,
in all of your names and products.
Yes.
I did notice you do the sip and floral.
Sip and petals.
Sip and petals. Please tell us about the sip and petals.
So Sip and Petals combines my love for food. I'm a food blogger, if y'all don't know. And
your pictures are wonderful.
Thank you. Listen, she be doing it. So, but Sip and Petals is a spinoff like Sip and Paint. So Sip and Petals is an opportunity where you and up to 6 to 10 guests get to have the shop for about 2 to 3 hours. I shut the shop down and I do a full tablescape and linen. And I offer coffee, tea, wine, dessert, heavy appetizers, wherein I feature local restaurants in Peekskill. Their appetizers from varying restaurants, Golden Crust, Central Bistro, wherever I want to hit, Fin and Brew, I'll hit these different restaurants and get appetizers, and they will compile the food that you're going to eat. And then after you get a full tablescape, china linen, music ambiance, you and your guests enjoy your food. Then I teach you and your guests how to make a fresh floral arrangement. We take pictures, we do a full table runner, you take pictures by the flower lady, and the shop is, we exclusively cater to you for those 2.5 hours. And it's a wonderful experience that's different from just going out to a restaurant. And we charge $75 a person plus tax. And it's a wonderful, it's just a wonderful thing to do. And you learn a skill. You learn how to make a fresh floral arrangement, use the foam, use dishes, prep the flowers. I give you an education, and it is fun. And when you get ready to leave and you want to do an arrangement in your kitchen or in your living room, dining room for an event, you can. It's a skill. It gives you a taste of what it's like to be a florist and to entertain. I've always loved that world. I've always loved food and flowers and entertaining. I love the B. Smiths and the Ina Gartans and the Martha Stewarts and the Julia Childs. And I've always been fascinated from a little girl. My mother was, she was a cook, and she would entertain. People would come over after church to eat. That was her way. And that's how I fell in love with it. And I love it. I mean, I just absolutely, I have such a passion for it.
I want to plug one person. Isn't she lovely? Vegan Bakery. Being though that you said you do the hors d'oeuvres and the pastries from locals, Karina Franks is a vegan bakery. So if you ever have anyone who calls you and say they want to do a sip and petal and they're asking for vegan baked goods, isn't she lovely? Vegan Bakery? Ooh, you will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed. Yes. Pam, we are coming to the end of 2 hours of talking. I cannot believe it's been 2 hours. I feel like it's only been one. We have to wrap this conversation up. I don't want to wrap this conversation up, but we got to wrap this conversation up. If you can give out, you've already given us a lot of great information. If you can share with the ladies who are listening, and you've had, I want to run this comment back. Do you know this person? Elisa Chavez. She said, Ms. Johnson has been the most help with college, and she's so different from other teachers and actually tried to get through to us. And I'm very glad to have her as my teacher and very proud of her. I had to run that back.
Alyssa, she is my 11th grade student. Oh, one of my precious babies in academic. Oh, she's going to make me cry.
Yes. Yeah. I said I have to run this comment back.
You got me crying.
They love you. They really do love you. Aw.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Alyssa, and I hope she's still on.
You work so hard with your students and you pour into them and you want to give them what you would give your own children, and you want to see them make it, and you want them to know that there's nothing they can't achieve. You want them to know that if you just trust God and you seek the one who created you to show you on the inside what he's given you in terms of talents, and just step out on faith, that he'll send people your way to help you make it. And it is my blessing, my pleasure and my joy to pour into them and to give them what he's given me, and to most importantly, hopefully demonstrate his nature and his character through being patient, through showing love, through showing kindness, showing forgiveness, endurance, making the way easier for them, showing them that what's impossible is possible. And if you just follow me, I'll take you to destination A. And guess what? When you go to college, you're going to meet another Miss Johnson who's going to take you further in your journey. And I promise you, if you open yourself up to relationships, because we're not intended to do this by ourselves, if we open ourselves up to relationships and ask God to point us to who those people are who are supposed to be assigned to our lives, your life will be so much richer, so much fuller, so much more in overflow. Overflow is not just about money. We think it's about the bag. We think about being a boss. I'm booked and busy. I'm a boss. It is not about that. It is not about, if you ever discover who you are and whose you are in him and why he specifically created you for the assignment and purpose that he destined for you, if you ever yield to it and surrender to it and say yes, the blessings of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. You will be so full. You will grow in such a way that is unimaginable. When you don't hoard riches and things unto yourself, you suffocate when that happens. When you hoard it for yourself, it becomes toxic. But when God fills you up, he fills you to overflow. And you know what the overflow is for? It's for the people around you in your circle, so that when you overflow, whatever's on the inside of you pour onto them. And what he's given you, you equip them. What he's taught you, you build capacity in them, and you ignite purpose in them. And then he's able to take it from there through the Holy Spirit and move them into who he's called them to be. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say all that.
Yes, you did.
Oh my God.
Amen. Amen. I don't have any other questions. That was beautiful. Pam, I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for blessing us with every word that you have given us for the last 2 hours.
Oh my God.
I'm going to stay behind stage and let me tell my audience good night. However, thank you so much. And they are like, preach, amen. They are loving this, loving it. Thank you so much. And I will be right back, Pam. Thank you so much for staying with us on this journey. When I said you are in for a treat, listen, I think that was an understatement. This was the most beautiful conversation, and I enjoyed every moment and every word. And I hope you did as well. And I hope you got something out of this. Brown Girls Do Network. We are a network, again, supporting, encouraging, and just growing up in business with each other. We like to network with everyone. There is no boundary of networking. As she said, if you do put boundaries on yourself, you're in for a long, lonely, isolating ride. I am Vanessa Williamson, the host of Brown Girls Do Network Live series. I am the founder of Brown Girls Do Network, and I invite anyone to come into our network. We are a network of brown and Black women, again, encouraging each other in business. Have a wonderful night, and thank you for joining us. Good night.